The United States is a country that often tells its story in stone, bronze, earthworks, and carefully preserved landscapes. Some monuments were built to honor presidents and soldiers. Others mark turning points in civil rights, engineering, exploration, or the long human history that predates the nation itself. If you want 10 places that reward a visit with both beauty and meaning, start here. 10 must-see U.S. monuments that offer a clear, memorable sense of what the country has been, what it has argued over, and what it still hopes to become. Begin in Washington, D.C., at the Lincoln Memorial, where architecture is used almost like a language. Designed by Henry Bacon and completed in 1922, the memorial borrows the form of a Greek temple. 36 Doric columns for the 36 states in the Union at the time of Lincoln's death. Inside, Daniel Chester French's seated Lincoln is larger than life, yet the expression is restrained, heavy with thought. The memorial's inscriptions matter as much as the sculpture. The Gettysburg Address and Lincoln's second inaugural are carved into the walls, and reading them on site changes their rhythm. This is also a monument with a second life as a civic stage. In 1939, after the Daughters of the American Revolution refused to allow black contralto Marian Anderson to perform at Constitution Hall, she sang here on the steps to a crowd of tens of thousands, an early, widely broadcast moment in the modern civil rights movement. In 1963, Martin Luther King Jr. spoke from the same steps during the March on Washington. Travel tip: arrive early or late for quieter viewing, and if you can, walk the reflecting pool axis toward the Washington Monument to feel how DC's monumental core was designed as a long, symbolic vista. Not far away, the Washington Monument rises with a different kind of message: the ambition of a young republic to honor a leader in the language of ancient obelisks. Construction began in 1848, stalled for years due to politics and funding, and resumed after the Civil War. It wasn't completed until 1884. Look closely, and you can see the color change in the stone about a third of the way up, where the quarry source shifted after the long pause. At 555 feet, it was the tallest structure in the world when finished. The interior contains commemorative stones donated by states, organizations, and foreign governments, an overlooked detail that turns the inside into a capsule of 19th century civic pride. Travel tip: timed tickets can be competitive in peak season, but the surrounding grounds are open and rewarding even without going up. If you do ride the elevator, the small windows offer a rare, geometric view of the city's plan. From the Capitol, head north to New York Harbor for the Statue of Liberty, perhaps the most internationally recognized monument in the United States, and also one of the most misunderstood. Officially titled Liberty Enlightening the World, the statue was a gift from France, designed by sculptor Frédéric Auguste Bartholdi, with an internal framework engineered by Gustave Eiffel. Dedicated in 1886, she is not simply a generic emblem of freedom. The crown's 7 rays are often read as representing the 7 seas and 7 continents, a global claim. The tablet bears the date July 4, 1776 in Roman numerals, tying liberty to the American founding. At her feet are broken chains, easy to miss from afar, suggesting emancipation and the end of oppression. The famous poem, The New Colossus, with its "Give me your tired, your poor," was added later, in 1903, and helped transform the statue into a symbol of immigration as well as liberty. Travel tip: reserve well in advance if you want crown access. It's a steep climb and not for everyone, but it changes your sense of scale. Pair Liberty Island with nearby Ellis Island to connect the icon to the actual bureaucratic and human experience of arrival. Now travel to South Dakota's Black Hills for Mount Rushmore, a monument that can't be separated from the land it occupies. Sculptor Gutzon Borglum began carving in 1927. The four 60-foot faces, Washington, Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, and Lincoln, were completed in 1941. The engineering involved drilling and careful blasting, and the site includes exhibits explaining the tools and methods used. Yet any visit gains depth when you learn the wider context. The Black Hills are sacred to the Lakota and were guaranteed to them by treaty, then seized after gold was discovered. The mountain's Lakota name, Six Grandfathers, carries a spiritual geography that predates the carving. Travel tip: see Rushmore near sunset, when the changing light adds contour and the crowds thin, and then consider driving a short distance to the Crazy Horse Memorial Site as a window into the ongoing, contested nature of monumental memory in the region. For a very different kind of monument, one that is both engineering and art, go to St. Louis, Missouri, to see the Gateway Arch. Completed in 1965 and designed by architect Eero Saarinen, the arch is a 630-foot stainless steel catenary curve, a mathematically precise form that resembles a hanging chain inverted. It commemorates the gateway to the West idea and the era of U.S. westward expansion, including the Louisiana Purchase and the journeys that followed. The arch sits on the Mississippi River, which was the continent's great commercial artery long before highways and jets. Inside, a tram system carries visitors to the top, where narrow windows frame the river and city like moving pictures. Travel tip: the museum beneath the arch has been modernized and is worth time. It adds nuance by addressing indigenous presence, exploration, and the complicated outcomes of expansion rather than treating the story as a simple triumph. Shift from stainless steel to living rock and ancient sky watching at Chaco Culture National Historical Park in northwestern New Mexico, home to some of the most sophisticated monumental architecture in pre-Columbian North America. Chaco Canyon flourished roughly between the 9th and 12th centuries, built by the ancestors of today's Pueblo peoples. Its great houses, massive multi-room structures like Pueblo Bonito, were constructed with remarkable masonry, using carefully shaped sandstone and timber hauled from distant mountains. Chaco's builders aligned buildings and roads with solar and lunar cycles. The site is famous for its astronomical knowledge, including alignments that mark solstices and the 18.6-year lunar standstill. This is a monument without a single statue or heroic name, yet it radiates planning, ceremony, and connection across a regional network. Travel tip: the roads to Chaco can be rough and weather-sensitive. Check conditions and bring water. Stay after dark if you can. Chaco is a designated dark sky park, and the night sky feels like part of the architecture. In Arizona, the Grand Canyon is a monument made by time, water, and uplift rather than chisels and scaffolds. As a national park, it's one of the most visited landscapes in the country, but it remains easy to approach with fresh eyes if you understand what you're seeing. Nearly 2 billion years of Earth's history exposed in layered rock, carved primarily by the Colorado River. The canyon's vastness can be disorienting. Distances fool the brain, and a point that looks close may be miles away across the chasm. The South Rim offers classic viewpoints and more services. The North Rim is higher, cooler, and more remote, open seasonally. Human history here is long as well. Indigenous peoples have lived in and around the canyon for millennia, and many tribes maintain cultural ties to specific places within it. Travel tip: resist the urge to do it all in a day. Walk a rim trail at sunrise, visit the Geology Museum for context, and if you hike below the rim, remember the most important rule: going down is optional. Coming up is mandatory. Return east to Philadelphia for Independence Hall, where the United States was argued into existence in rooms that still feel surprisingly human in scale. The building, completed in the 1750s, is a masterpiece of Georgian design, but its importance comes from what happened inside. The Second Continental Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence in 1776, and the Constitutional Convention met in 1787. This wasn't a clean story of unity. It was a political struggle among states, interests, and visions of power. The Constitution that emerged created a framework strong enough to endure and flexible enough to be amended, but it also contained compromises, especially around slavery, that would haunt the nation. Nearby, the Liberty Bell has become a symbol of freedom, though it acquired much of that symbolism later, particularly through abolitionist use of its imagery in the 19th century. Travel tip: tours of Independence Hall are timed and ticketed in peak season. Plan ahead and allow time to walk the surrounding historic district, where the city's street grid and brick row houses create a textured sense of the colonial era. Continue to the National Mall again, but this time stop at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, a place that uses minimalism to generate maximum emotional force. Designed by Maya Lin and dedicated in 1982, the memorial is 2 long walls of polished black granite set into the earth, inscribed with the names of more than 58,000 Americans who died in the conflict or remain missing. The names are ordered chronologically by date of casualty, not alphabetically, so the wall tells the war as a sequence, a rising, cresting, and long receding line of loss. The reflective surface pulls visitors into the monument. You see your own face among the names, an intentional merging of present and past. Offerings left at the wall, letters, medals, photographs, are collected and preserved, creating an informal archive of grief and memory. Travel tip: locate a name in advance if you're visiting to honor someone. The experience is different when you arrive with a specific point of connection. Finally, go south to Georgia for the Martin Luther King Jr. National Historical Park in Atlanta, where the monumental is not a single towering structure, but a landscape of lived history. Here you can visit King's childhood home on Auburn Avenue, the neighborhood that shaped him, and Ebenezer Baptist Church, where he preached, and where the cadences of Black church oratory helped form one of the most influential public voices of the 20th century. The park also includes King's tomb and the reflecting pool, a contemplative space that invites quiet rather than spectacle. This site is powerful because it anchors a global movement in local details. A porch, a sanctuary, a street lined with ordinary buildings that witnessed extraordinary organizing. Travel tip: the home tours are often ranger-led with limited capacity. Check schedules and arrive early. Pair the visit with time at the King Center to understand the movement's philosophy and strategy, not just its most famous speeches. Taken together, these monuments offer a map of American identity that is neither simple nor static. Some are celebrations of ideals, others are sites of reckoning. Some were built by governments, others by communities, and some, like the Grand Canyon, were built by geology and then given cultural meaning by the people who lived beside them. Visiting them with curiosity means noticing materials and inscriptions, asking who commissioned the work and who was excluded, and paying attention to the land underfoot as much as the structure overhead. That approach turns a checklist into an education, and it makes each monument not a final word, but an invitation to keep learning.